of the continuing and mounting evidence from many sources, it is the judgment of the committee that cigarette smoking contributes substantially to mortality from certain specific diseases and to the overall death rate.
That was Dr. Luther Terry, the Surgeon General, opening the report of his Advisory Committee on Smoking and Health. The committee was set up to look over the whole smoking situation and to tell the government and the nation what can reasonably be said to be fact. After a year and 2 months, they did so. Their conclusions were firm and unanimous. The Surgeon General's committee was appointed as a culmination of a long series of attacks on smoking. In the 1930s, doctors began getting worried about the increase in lung cancer rates. In the early 1950s, the first extensive statistical studies showing a relationship between cigarette smoking and lung cancer appeared, and new studies have appeared periodically since.
In December 1953, the CEOs of the major tobacco companies met secretly in New York City. Their purpose was to counter the damage from studies linking smoking to lung cancer. In 1954, the tobacco industry paid to publish the frank statement to cigarette smokers in hundreds of U.S. newspapers. It stated that the public's health was the industry's concern above all others and promised a variety of good faith changes. What followed were decades of deceit and actions that cost millions of lives. Big Tobacco came up with the strategy that is now known as the Tobacco Playbook. Essentially, they denied the science that showed cigarettes were causing various diseases and denied that it was addictive, attacked and defamed those who raised awareness, and partnered with agenda-driven doctors and scientists to promote their product as beneficial, and cast doubt on the growing health concern among consumers. Today, there's another battle for truth raging on while millions of people are developing addiction and sexual dysfunctions, while a billion-dollar industry and their partners push back with denial, disinformation, and defamation of those raising awareness.
And there's something called porn-related erectile dysfunction, which is a relatively new phenomenon. And that is basically someone can only be aroused through pornography and not through actual relationships? Is that what that is?
Yes. And you know, when we first start out, you know, some of these people who are watching porn, it may be as a supplement, but over time it takes over where the person can no longer feel aroused by their partner, so that they want sex in a certain way. If it's masturbation, only they can understand the touch and the pleasure. And it's also very high-speed internet access, so that you're getting instant gratification in a way that your pleasure, in a way that your partner cannot arouse you anymore.
Gabe Dean from Irving, Texas is here, and he says he has actually experienced this. And Gabe, tell us what happened to you.
Well, my story is a lot different than Craig's, right? I'm what you would consider an opportunity addict, and I'm the first generation that had access to high-speed internet porn, as Sue just said. And I was exposed, like Craig, at the age of 8, but I didn't have any trauma or abuse that led me to use pornography.
You were just curious?
Yeah, I mean, I was just a boy. Of course I'm gonna like looking at naked girls. Then at the age of 12, I got high-speed internet. And it wasn't an issue that led me to watch porn. It was just that I liked it and I wanted to. And over time, you know, I became sexually active when I was 14. And so I was having sex and watching porn all through high school and into college. And eventually, I lost my motivation and drive for life, but that didn't catch my attention. What caught my attention was it became harder for me to get aroused by girls in real life.
So how did you change that? Or did you?
Well, I did what anyone would do. I was 23 and healthy and had no idea what was wrong with me, so I went to Google and I typed in, you know, young guy problem. and
why do I suddenly feel like Dr. Ruth?
I mean, what else are you gonna type, right? So I found forums, right, where hundreds of thousands of guys my age, teenagers, are talking about having erectile dysfunction. And they all had one thing in common: years of internet porn use. And the key is internet, because it's novel, you can always click to something more shocking, and it overstimulates our brain. So I saw just to give up porn, you can regain sexual function. So as a young man that didn't have a penis that worked, that was pretty strong motivation.
Wow. So is everything A-okay in this department?
Yes. Yeah, it took me 9 months to recover. So it was clear that something was happening in my brain, and I really had some deep conditioning for pornography.
Wow,
The thing
that's so
is, Katie,
interesting.
This is really important. There is not a shred of scientific evidence that links erectile dysfunction with pornography use. In most of the studies that are being published, it has to do with smoking, drug use, health, stress, relationship, and anxiety.
One of the questions that a lot of people worry about, and we got asked these questions during the survey, is pornography addictive? Does it change my brain to sit and watch pornography? The easy and quick answer that I'll tell you is that there is absolutely no evidence that pornography is addictive.
Is the medical community, the scientific community, on whether there is such a thing as quote-unquote sex addiction?
There's a pretty big split in the community. That is, most neuroscientists and people who study these conditions tend not to believe that it's an addiction, that it's not consistent with that, but a lot of the treatment providers who do counseling think that it is an addiction.
So about 11 years ago, men started showing up on my wife's forum. Her forum had nothing to do with internet porn, porn addiction, or porn problems, and they were complaining that porn was causing sexual dysfunctions. We're not sure why they showed up, but her website was about the neurobiology of sexual relationships. It had articles about neurobiology of love, sex, bonding, and maybe Google put together certain key words like ejaculation, dopamine, addiction, and they showed up and they started helping each other. Google must have archived their posts because more and more showed up. And to our amazement and theirs, when they quit porn, these dysfunctions healed. Chronic erectile dysfunction, inability to orgasm, declining interest in real partners, escalation to porn that did not match their original sexual taste. Now, we published articles about the men's experience, and soon my wife's forum was flooded with men. Many of these young men, sadly, with porn-induced ED, were suicidal. They thought they were ruined for life. Over and over, the men asked this question: why didn't anyone tell me that porn use could cause erectile dysfunction?
Doctors in every branch of medicine were asked, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?" In this nationwide survey of general practitioners, surgeons, throat specialists, diagnosticians, and so on, the brand named most was Camel.
Yes, according to this survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Try Camels yourself. Make the one sensible cigarette test. Make your own 30-day Camel mildness test in your T-zone. Smoke only Camels for 30 days. Enjoy Camel's rich, full flavor. And see how well Camels agree with your throat. Pack after pack, week after week. See for yourself why Camels are so popular with the doctors of America.